Hi guys. Now today and tomorrow, which is Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to be learning and hearing about a story called City Mouse and Country Mouse. It is a fable. And remember, we've heard a fable already this week. You remember the name of that fable? The Lion and the Mouse. Good. And remember, a fable is a story that was written a long time ago. Way long. Before me and your grandma, all those people, long time ago. Not to say I'm like your grandma, but anyway, okay. And it was written by a man named Aesop. Aesop's Fables, okay? So he's very famous. He wrote these fables. Can you say Aesop? Aesop. Very good. Now, a fable is a story that teaches us a lesson or a moral, something that we need to learn. Now, we learn from The Lion and the Mouse that friends who are little in size can still be great friends. Yeah. Now, this story is going to teach us a new lesson or moral. Now, before we start the story, I want to show you a couple things because this story has two settings. A setting is where the story takes place, okay? So the first one I want to show you is this picture. It is a picture of a city. And a city is a place that is usually pretty crowded. It's noisy and has lots of buildings, lots of cars, and lots of people. We live in a city, don't we? Yeah. Now, this is New York City, but we live in the city called Houston. Yeah. Now, the other setting this story takes place in is the country. This is a picture of the country. Now, the country has lots of space with much fewer buildings. It's very quiet, and it does not have much traffic. Have you ever visited the country? Okay. Well, let me turn my page. I have these things that I'm trying to make sure I remember everything. So, okay. Now I have a flip book, which I'm going to be showing you the pages. And as I share them with you, I'm going to be reading and talking to you about them. Okay? Here we go. Here's the first page. Once upon a time, there were two mice who were cousins. One mouse lived in a small, simple house in the country. The other mouse lived in a large, stylish house in the city. One day, the city mouse went to visit his cousin in the country. The country mouse was very happy to see the city mouse. He invited his cousin to stay for dinner. See the city mouse? He has on fancy clothes, like a suit. And there's the country mouse. He has on overalls and a little handkerchief in his pocket. Yeah, so you see a difference right there. How they're dressed even. Okay. The country mouse pulled two silver thimbles up to a spool of thread. The thimbles and spool of thread became two chairs and a table. Now, you may not know what a thimble is. Right here and right here, that's a thimble. My mom was a lady who did lots of sewing, so she had thimbles everywhere at my house growing up. I don't have thimbles at my house because I don't sew. You may have seen some at your house or your grandma's or your aunt's or somebody's. They go on a person's fingers, but men can sew too, not just women. Okay, anyway, but they go on your finger and they protect your fingers from the needle so you don't get poked with the needle when you're sewing. Now, the thing in the middle, the spool of thread, it's very small. They're not big. And here it shows it being made out of wood. They're not made out of wood these days because that was a long time ago when they were made out of wood. Those are antiques now. They're made out of plastic. But the thread is what people need to sew. If it's on a sewing machine, or sew by hand with the needle. So that's the spool and a thimble, okay? They use it as a little table and little chairs. Okay, now he set the table with 2 acorn caps and a little birthday cake candle. He served a simple meal. They ate ripe peas and corn. As they were eating, the city mouse became less cheerful. Suddenly he said, "Dear cousin, how ever do you put up with such plain food?" The country mouse thought for a moment. Then he replied, "My apologies, cousin, but this is what we eat most of the time here in the country." The city mouse promptly invited the country mouse to come with him to the city. "Just wait until you taste the wonderful foods we have in the city," he said. "I can assure you, you will not want to return to the country." Wow. I don't know. So, the city mouse and the country mouse set off. They scampered, which means they kind of ran fast. They scampered through the fields and the neighborhoods and into the city. They arrived late that evening. The country mouse saw immediately that his cousin lived in a very grand, that means big and fancy, house. "Shh," said the city mouse as they entered the house through a little hole in the wall. "We don't want anyone to hear us." The city mouse led the way as he dashed from room to room, making sure no one was there. Kind of sounds like they're burglars or something. That's kind of wild. So they're sneaking in. Ooh, wow. Okay. Finally, feeling safe, he waved his arm and invited his country cousin into a large dining room. Once there, they ran up the leg of a huge dining room table. The remains of somebody's magnificent, that means wonderful, feast. A feast is a fancy meal. Still lay spread out on the table. They had left behind their silverware. Silverware, you know what that is? Knives, forks, and spoons. That's your tools to eat. They had left their silverware, crystal glasses, and napkins, and a lot of their delicious food. The country mouse could hardly believe it. There was so much fancy food. There were bunches of fresh green grapes left behind. There were even slices of delicious chocolate cake with luscious icing. That means yummy. There was even more food than the country mouse had ever seen before. The 2 mice got busy nibbling away. "Oh, delicious," munched the country mouse. "I have never eaten such fine food." Then both mice stopped in the middle of a bite. Oh no, they heard loud snarls and hisses nearby. "Oh no, quick, follow me," said the city mouse. Oh no. He scampered, that means he ran quickly, to the floor. Remember, they were on top of that table. They went down the leg of the dining room table again, with his cousin right behind him. At that very moment, an angry-looking cat raced into the dining room. The 2 mice ran for their lives. They escaped just in time, dashing through a small hole in the wall. "Phew, that was close," said the city mouse. "Whew, we'll wait here until they leave, and then we can finish our meal." But the country mouse was so frightened and scared, he couldn't reply and say anything. He had never been in such danger before. Whew. He thought about his simple house in the country, and he realized how much better he liked it there. Yeah. He decided that it was time to go home. Yeah. Whew. That was some scary stuff. The country mouse did not even say goodbye to his cousin. Oh my goodness. He got out of there as fast as he could. He picked up his belongings and scampered, that means quickly walked or ran, out of the city. out of the city house. He ran all the way home to the country where he felt safe and happy. Whew. So the moral of this story is there is no place like home. Wow, what a story. Yeesh. Okay. Now, I'm going to have some questions I want you to answer with your family, okay? I want you to take some time. If you want to pause the video and talk about it and then restart it, you can. The first question is, what kinds of food did the country mouse serve? What kinds of food did the city mouse serve? Do you remember? One said they had simple food. Which one said that? And what were the simple foods? There were two things. And the other one said they had fancy food. Who said that? And what were the fancy foods? There were a couple of them. Do you remember? You can pause this for a second, families. Okay, next question. Would you like to eat the plain country food or the fancy city food? What do you think? What would you like? There's no right answer on this one. It's what you think, what you would like. You can pause it for a second and talk. Okay. Now the third question is, describe where each mouse lived. Remember, the title of the story is The City Mouse and the Country Mouse. So remember, where did the two mice live? Those two different places, those are called the settings. That's the setting of the story, and the story had two settings, okay? So where did the country mouse live, and what did it look like? Okay, where did the city mouse live? What did it look like? You can pause it and talk about it for a second. You remember the way they ate their meals? How were they different and how are they the same? Can you compare and contrast? That means think about one way and another way and see how they're the same and see how they're different. They both had food. They both sat down. One sat on a fancy table with a tablecloth and china and crystal, fancy glass to drink out of and just very fancy food. And the other one sat on a little thimble and a spool for the table. Yeah, and the other one just had food from the garden. So they were different, but they both were the same because they were eating and they were sitting down together. So they were the same like that. Last one. Why does the country mouse like the country better than the city? Why do you think? Okay. Now be sure and pay attention to the Schoolology page. I'm going to have you answer one of these questions and make a video and send it to me. Okay, guys? Awesome. Thanks so much. Bye.